So very, very happy today to have Tina Sherifa Hicks, who is an award-winning TV and film production designer. I mean, what a title, Tina.
Oh, thanks, John. Yeah, I know. It's great.
So I'm going to take you right back. So production designer for film and TV. When did you actually get your first love for film and TV?
Ooh, I think growing up in the 80s and sitting and watching movies and just being mesmerized by kind of how it all works. And then kind of always having a passion for art and drawing, and just love telling stories and making the scenes for everything. And then kind of a penny dropped when I was at college, and I just thought I like making scenes through my medium of art for kind of stories. And then of course going to university, and I carried on studying set design, and that's it really. You kind of, it's that whole fantasy. It was a world of, it wasn't just TV film at first. It was kind of theme park design, exhibition space. So it was telling a story in any environment really, setting that scene. So that's where I started, was theme park design, and then moving through to exhibition space, and then having kind of the opportunity to work on a period drama. And that's where, I kind of was like, wow, this is brilliant.
Were there any inspirations from Torquay in your production design, or your first designs?
Growing up in Torquay, I loved the model village. Bygones, which actually now visiting is quite haunting and scary. But as a child, it was the complete, food for your imagination. It was brilliant. I used to just love going down the kind of the make-believe cobbled streets and all the little fake fronts in Bygones, and all the little detail and all the little kind of things, the smells, and just all these little scenes of like times of past. And I used to just fantasize and think, wow, somebody's made that. That's brilliant. And then Model Village, of course, all the tiny, tiny little houses, the scenes again where, there's a fire and the fire engines there putting out the fire, and just every little detail. And those places, including actually Flambards down in Cornwall, another place that just blew my mind. So these places, you can tell they're still very, very vivid in my brain, and now that I've got a little one, we go to these places because I'm like feeding his brain as well, because there's nothing better in life than storytelling. So Torquay, and of course playing on the beach and just being surrounded by beautiful landscapes. It was a wonderful place to grow up.
How do you go from, say, your small little local projects to your TV? Is there a route in, or do you? Yeah.
I think there's a better route now, to be fair. I mean, I work with my university that I was with years ago, and I also work with Salford University, because now I'm also a job sharing production designer. So myself and my colleague, she's also a tutor, part-time tutor. So we work hand in hand with the universities to find that foot for students to come in, and we give them work placements, and we kind of introduce them to kind of all the directories, how to approach productions, what productions are looking for from them, what they need to do to be ready for the real world if they want to take that path. So I think now, if you are passionate, there is a much clearer route in now. But I think when I was younger, it was more of a wibbly wobbly kind of knock on doors and kind of, try your luck. But key is persistence, and I'm quite persistent. So I went and visited Madame Tussauds, the design studio originally, and I fell in love with it. That's where I I started doing all my theme park design. And, I did the likes of making Easter cards, Christmas cards, and, contacting them. How can I get work placement? How can I come in? How can I come in? And they would advise me. So that was the first thing I did. Once I'd been in that industry, I got that on my CV. And actually, my head of year at my university, she knew that I was looking for a new job because my contract was finishing at Two Swords. And she happened to have her best friend, who was a production designer, married to Tony Scott, sorry. So it was Jerry Scott was her best
Wow.
friend. And Jerry did all of Middlemarch, Pride and Prejudice back in the 80s, the classics.
Yeah.
A very highly acclaimed production designer, a wonderful woman, and from the Northeast, and my university was up there. So it was a luck situation. And so she phoned me up, and I was kind of like, I am out of university. I have had experience, and this is my portfolio, blah, 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 blah. And I'd love to have the opportunity to be your art department assistant. So it happened, I had a car, I had a computer. And
Brilliant.
even if you haven't got any of these that are great, you just cobble it together. My computer was terrible, but I had it, We soon had to reassess that and get myself a new one. But at the time, when they phone and they say, have you got this? Have you got that? Can you find your way here? Can you do that? The answer is yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then you put the phone down and go, ah!
I've done it.
I've got to get that all now. So, it's never doubting what you can achieve. So, that was my first step into kind of the real world of TV. I had done a little short whilst I was at university, but that was through the university. It was an exterior project. But that didn't really, I think at the time I was still trying to get my footing. I enjoyed it. It was a comedy process, but that was very much kind of, a little project at home sort of thing, where we cobbled everything together, which was great. And I learned a lot through it. However, to kind of move into something that was on a real scale, it was literally just being at the right place at the right time. But it's taking every opportunity, keeping in touch with people that, that can help you out. And I think from university, I built a good reputation with my kind of tutors. And so, I always stayed in touch. And well, I left in 99 and I'm still in touch with them now.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's good. I mean, from what I understand of all the different guests I've spoken to, it's teams, and in some respects, the film industry can be quite a small place. But once you know a few of the people in it,
it's
built on reputation, testimonials. Say, I've just worked with such and such for your next production.
Completely. I mean, for me, then after working with Jerry Scott, who is completely tied into Tony and Ridley Scott, and the quality of all her productions, we did the thing called The Way We Live Now, and that was with David Suchy, and it's an award-winning primetime cast. Looking back now, we've got some of the top cast. Some of them guys that are in Succession, and they've gone from pillar to post to the tops of the movies. And it's lovely to look back and go, I was that art department assistant. And then they gave me the opportunity at the end of the show, for the last 2 weeks, to step up and go and shadow and to take over doing standby art directing.
Amazing.
So again, it's constantly, once you've got your foot in the door and you're doing that job role, then you have to be aware that your job role, there are so many other opportunities within the art department or whichever department you go to. So you're constantly being polite, you're constantly learning, you're constantly absorbing everything. And then, once that opportunity comes, you take it again, So I then could put on my CV, I had experience doing, standby, which then led to me getting a job in Manchester as an art department assistant to start with. However, that lasted for 3 months, I think, and then I got stepped up to being standby art director. So it was, it was a really fast pace then. And then I found a designer that I worked with really well. So, yeah, it's who you know. And at the same time, having that ability to be really skilled and polite and take opportunities.
So I'm going to talk about Waterloo Road.
Yes.
Now, I'm always amazed by this. You moved the entire set to, was it Scotland or something ridiculous? You moved into how? I mean, don't have to explain all of it. Obviously, you've got a production book or on your computer, all the measurements are designed to what the school looks like. How on earth do you go to? Was it an empty building?
Oh, it was a derelict empty building. So there was no electricity. We had to get emergency generators in. And I mean, they cost thousands before we could be wired back up to the circuit. We had a 10-week tight turnaround.
Wow. Because I'll be like, and so somebody who's not a production designer, obviously you've got to source materials, how you're going to make the sets, what it's going to be made of. How do you go about that? How do you look for suppliers, that kind of thing?
Every job is different, but shipping everything to a different country, because Scotland is, I had to recrew. And again, it's a great thing when you've got a shortcut and you have worked with loads of different people. So say, for example, I've got several buyers that I have worked with over the years. I know I can phone them. Are you free? We know our shortcuts. We just get on with it. When you go to a new country and you need a whole new team, you are looking to interview excessive amounts of people for maybe 25 job roles, and they've all got to work with each other. They've all got to be free and inspired and energized and ready to tackle it. Prior to, I think we were still signing contracts Christmas Eve to get kind of, the core team on board to turn it round for kind of like the 4th of January starting, But, I took on a great art director, I took on a great construction manager up there. So straight away, you walk around, you do your initial design concepts, you work with the execs, you work with kind of all the kind of key characters that need to know what elements are to make the show. Then you bring in the director, because then we start having the editorial and the script side of things. We bring in the DOP because we need to make the lighting work. So then all these different aspects then interfere with your design. You then work out what layout works, so a classroom might not work down the end of that corridor because that teacher is always going to be colluding with another teacher that's on the different floor. So a quick swap around on plans and changing things. But the initial, walk and talk through this building, which was vast, it was a huge school in Scotland, we are knocking out walls to put windows in, so you've got, it's a proper construction job. So it's not just like a TV sort of facades and kind of flattages. This is kind of like, we're going in, we are having to tick all the health and safety boxes, and we're putting lintels in and supports, huge cranes going onto the top of the buildings to put the big logos and signs up. So as soon as all the design ideas are done, going back to materials and looking at what's best, you kind of go, okay, well, I like the look of this. What could it be made from? For example, Waterloo Road, the huge big wording that I wanted on the front of the building. In my head, I went for the Waterloo Road burgundy background paint, and then I like, what stands out? Well, chrome stands out, but you can't have it too reflective, because if the sun hits it, you're not going to pick it up on camera. Is it going to get warped? Is it, so you go through all these things of weathering and all the rest of it. So it's the same as kind of like when you're on a building site. So then you talk to the experts, the construction team. They know what is durable for the weather, you know, and what's going to last. So, you know, you then talk to kind of like the sign writing company that are going to make it for you, you know, and so you build up this kind of this whole kind of collaboration, and then you come up with the final material. So it's not always like I'll go, oh, I want to make it like this. Sometimes I'm like, I like the idea of it being a metal color or a silver, but is that possible? And then, you know, kind of my experts tell me.
And how does it work? I'm just thinking, because I interviewed Eloise Abbott. Now, she's a makeup artist. You think of makeup and how it's going to look. For instance, like, this is beige and you're wearing a certain kind of makeup for the actor, but you wouldn't wear beige clothes against
no,
because you just disappear. You know, simple things like that. How do you work with the costume designer makeup? That it's like meetings with the rest of that?
It's mainly costume really that we sort of work with, because costume and makeup obviously go hand in hand to make sure that the character looks right. But for us, it's usually costume, because their clothes are the thing that, you know, kind of stands out. We have page turns where the producer will tell us what kind of ideas, like, say, for example, if they've got wacky hair, or if they've got like a blue rinse, you know, all these things will come out in our production conversations. But we do kind of collude with costume and send each other our mood boards. For example, you know, if we're going into a character's house, I will send over all our design concepts. You know, one of our characters, she wears a lot of bright clothes. We wanted to make her home like an olive green and very much kind of like an arty wood, you know, with modern art on the walls. So, you know, we kind of made sure that they knew that we were going to go for this green, because we didn't want them to put her in something almost exactly the same and she'd disappear. So, yeah, you know, it's that thing of making sure that, yeah, the actor's wearing a different clothing and it fits, you know, because then you've got pattern on pattern, which can look like a big vomit, you know. So it's really important. And sometimes obviously you've got to remember that they're going to go through the whole show. So, or it's, for us, they usually wear one outfit through the whole thing. So if they have chosen a color and we've gone, oh, but we're going to do this in this location, what they'll tend to do is then get it into the story that they'll take that jacket off, or you know, something will happen, so we haven't got the problem. But he likes the ping as well. So this is another thing that we'll have loads of meetings about, is you have ping colors. So depending on what shoot you work on, you know, the colors are the stylized, and every frame, you know, you'll work to, the costume will have a color in it, and that color then needs to also be a few items that we then dress into the house. So on it, or like the curtains will be the same color, or, you know, there'll be a magazine on the top. And every shot, the standby art director will work with the director and they'll make sure that there's the pings. And that's something that we do a lot in Waterloo Road as well, is kind of have kind of, you know, a color that sort of just stands out, just to kind of, and it's just being clever, you know. I did years ago, we did a police drama, and the kind of the vibe of this police drama was no blue.
All right.
So,
well, you think of the Bill and stuff in the 80s. Yeah, they had a certain look.
It was loads of police vehicles. It was constant scene of crime, no blue. And that was a challenge. And we did it to see if the viewer actually noticed, and if it actually made it feel warmer. We you know, that was called conviction. But that was an interesting one to do, and I enjoyed that, you know, playing a game of color sort of thing.
For you, what has it been like working with, say somebody established? You know, they might have that, in the respect, ask them the question, they might have their own ideas of their character and what they should look like. Yeah,
we get, I mean, you get, there is that whole thing of kind of, once you get an established actor on board, you know, they do have some ideas about a lot of things. And so, yes, you take on board, and that's the time when you kind of, you have these conversations with your director. And the director is usually the intermediate that sort of kind of says, listen, you know, I've had a chat with X person and we've talked about this, and we really would like to kind of emphasize this as part of the character's home, or can they have this? And sometimes, like, an actor will catch me, you know, kind of on location and say, oh, I've had this great idea. What do you think? And I'll be like, you know what? That's really good. I like it. We are going to go down this theme, but, and they'd be like, really, this thing would be the key thing that will help me. And I think it really tie in with the whole story. And it's like a subliminal thing. And I'm like, you know what? I love it. It's great. And those little moments, you know, I might be just going to get lunch, and you'll just have those chats. And then, you know, obviously I'll then take that with the producer up and the kind of director and go, you listen, you know, we've been forward thinking, and kind of, if we had this object, or if there was this kind of chair or something in the, you know, flat when we shoot it, you know, the actor would really like that. Are you happy with that? Because, you know, we can source this, we can do this, you know, and it's not something we originally discussed. And, you know, and then that gets everybody thinking, and they're like, yeah, you know what, that's a really good idea. So it's a very fluid process, you know. It's not once it's on a piece of paper you tick and it's done. It's like, you know, if there's more ideas coming in, you know, then great, let's keep getting those ideas, because they keep building, and, you know, they'll add layers, and that's what it's all about, is layers.
Amazing. Right, I've got two final questions. What would you love to do as a production designer, your dream project? Obviously, you're doing your dream project now. I'm thinking like a feature film. What sort of feature films do you love?
I think I would love to do a feature film, children's film show, you know, kind of like a children's fantasy story. I know that the world of CGI is excessive now. I'd rather do something that wasn't like 20 million green screens. But yeah, I'd love to do some sort of fantasy child's film, you know, that'd just be amazing. But, you know, let's see what happens as time goes by, you know. There's world of drama is fantastic, and, you know, I've worked on loads of children's shows as well, and I do love children's shows because you can be so kind of creative with everything. But you know, I've done my time with police dramas, I've done my time with kind of, you know, all sorts of storytelling stories. So it's that would be my key thing, I think. And maybe kind of fast cars as well.
Yeah.
Fast cars.
One last question. Any words of wisdom of somebody thinking of going into the production design part of filmmaking?
Yeah, you know, follow your dream. You got a dream. Keep creating, keep drawing. Don't be lazy. Don't sit on the fence. Make the calls. Don't wait for people to call you. You know, if there's an opportunity, take it. Don't be nervous, and, you know, be persistent. And, you know, I mean, I've just been around the students at one of the universities, and, you know, I had these conversations with some of the students. You know, take every opportunity, whether it's big, whether it's small, whether it's for a second, you know, do them. And you don't know what they'll do, but they will help you open more doors. And so, yeah, follow your dreams and just, you know, go for it. But yeah, the world of TV and film is a wonderful place, and you know, it's always looking for more new talented people. So definitely follow your dreams.
Brilliant. Right, well, thanks so much for your time today, Tina. It's been amazing. I've learned so much, because production design is a major, huge part of the film. Because if you didn't have that,
that's right.
Would your actors be? Yeah, and it's better to have real than all this CGI.
I mean, you know, listen, we are in a time where CGI is fantastic, and I'm not poo-pooing it, because, you know, it's come on leaps and bounds. It really has. But there's nothing quite like sitting and designing something that you can actually see being built, you know, by your construction team, and actually kind of walking around it and being in it and living it, you know. I think also for the actors, you know, they can feel their role more, you know. However, it's not always possible. So CGI is a very, 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 very good thing. But yeah, there we go.
Thank you very much.
No worries.